Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Double Down with Breslo, where we cover the business of sports betting. It's been a little while since our last episode, so we are thrilled to be back. Sports betting continues to explode in the U.S., more states coming on, revenues increasing, just a real explosion in the past few years in the United States. Yet we still have to look across the pond to the guys that have been doing it a lot longer than we have to see what's coming next in the US. So we've got Alan Casey with us, the Chief Commercial Officer for TXODDS, coming to us from the UK. What part of the UK are you in?
Actually, I'm in Dublin, Ireland, Jim. So yeah, we're off to a bad start there. The company is based in London. You're correct, but yeah, I'm working remotely out of Dublin, Ireland. So
And that would be and is that quite offensive to suggest that Israel, I mean, that it's somehow part of the UK?
yes, yeah, I think pretty offended. I wouldn't personally be offended, but I think if some of my friends and family heard me not correct you on that one, yeah, I'd be dragged through the coals.
Yeah. No, I didn't make that mistake. I just thought that you were in London because I did see that the company's headquartered in London, but I did see that you were in Dublin and of course quickly picked up the Dublin accent.
Yeah, hard to miss.
And that means it's a bit late for you to not have a pint in front of you already.
Yeah, well, that is the stereotype. Yeah, and it is a holiday weekend here as well. So yeah,
Oh,
I'd
nice.
say as soon as I finish up with you, maybe it might be the first one.
What's the holiday?
Just Easter, so I think Good Friday and Easter Monday are kind of public bank holidays. So,
That
but
makes
we're good at bank
sense. I don't
holidays in the
know.
UK and Ireland. Yeah.
I used to think that Friday's here. I don't know if tomorrow's a holiday for us or not. I think it's not. I seem to feel like it used to be, but you know. And then again, I went to Catholic school for a few years, so it was a little taken a little bit more seriously there. But yeah,
Yeah.
I've been to Dublin. Been to Dublin once. I described it as the Disneyland for pubs. It's
There
pretty
you go.
much
Yeah.
that's got to be the primary industry there.
Yeah, it is. And like up until I think maybe 2 years ago, you used not be able to get a pint in Dublin on Good Friday. That's how kind of tied to the Catholic Church Ireland was. So you'd see tourists in Dublin City on Good Friday, and they're going like, "I'm here for the pints. Where are they?" And we're going like, "Oh, you can't get them today." And just like the looks of horror on their face. But yeah, no, Dublin, it's a great town, and I think with the NFL is coming here this year, and the college football games that are here now almost every summer, they're always a good time. And you see lots of the American fans coming over and enjoying it. Brings a good buzz to the city.
Yeah, I see they're doing college. You have not done pro yet, though, right? There's not NFL hasn't
No,
been there.
it's coming this year. The Steelers are coming, I think, week 4. I don't think we know who they're playing yet. They previously did a preseason game. It must be 20 years ago now, against the Bears, but that was preseason. So it's a long time coming. And yeah, I know the country is very
Yeah.
excited to be getting it.
Well, I made the mistake of going to an NFL game in London a few years ago. I think I saw the Rams play somebody, and the reason I say it was a mistake is as it turns out, there was also like a Manchester United game going the same night,
Right.
and I'm like, and so I went to an NFL game in Europe where you just don't get the same flavor. You don't have the hardcore hometown
No, you
fans.
don't.
You just kind of have general interest. So it was just kind of not an exciting game. Like shit, when in Rome, do as the Romans do, and I
Yeah.
didn't do that.
Yeah, I'm a Jets fan, so I've seen them in London before, and they're coming back this year. But like I've also seen them, in New York, and yeah, as you say, it's very different when it's a stadium full of neutral fans in London, and it's a nice experience. But it's no, you want to be in the home crowd.
Yeah. So how is NFL doing so far in Ireland and UK, would you say? I mean, is it climbing up the ranks as far as sports that
Yeah,
people
it's
follow?
exploding. I think this year, so Paddy Power, kind of part of the Flutter group that would be FanDuel's parent company. They announced near the end of the NFL season that the NFL, I think, in number of bets was now third. So probably behind soccer, horse racing, and then American football. So that would be crazy for it to be kind of getting up that high. But it's just become, I think, with Red Zone, it's just the popularity has gone through the roof. So like you'll have, nearly everyone. everyone in my age bracket, a little bit younger, a little bit older, they're watching NFL every Sunday.
And is Red Zone what they're typically watching?
Yeah, yeah, typically, yeah. That's or at least that's the kind of gateway drug to it. And then, you pick a team and then you might kind of follow the team. But Red Zone's just great. It's great view and it's easy watch. So, and then people are playing fantasy sports as well, and that kind of it all just feeds into it. So
And your Red Zone is the same as our Red Zone, I assume. No commercials, right?
no commercials. Scott Hansen, 7 hours of commercial-free football, baby. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta say, I've been an NFL fan since I was a little kid, so different than you guys, but I also love Red Zone, and that's pretty much all I watch because it's just, especially when you got bets on the game. I mean, just you get your fix. I mean, in today's ADD society, watching a 3 hour NFL game with all the commercial breaks and so on, it's kind of a slog unless you're at a bar and drinking and so on. So getting 8 games at a time is exactly what this generation needs.
It is for sure. And yeah, I'm a fancy football junkie as well. So yeah, I'm in about like 50 dynasty leagues. So yeah, I'm watching pretty closely on Red Zone.
And what's interesting is you couldn't really do red zone for soccer. You know, the beauty of NFL is you kind of know when something's about to happen because they're in the red zone. But in soccer, you could score a goal at any time. And so I was just thinking whether they've tried anything like that for soccer, but probably
They
not.
have it now in the Champions League. So in the group stages, it can kind of works okay because you kind of have maybe 16 concurrent games. But yeah, it's an okay product. But yeah, as you say, it's nowhere near it has to be filled in by like them talking in studio rather than just being all action because as you say, you don't know when to jump around games, but you see all the goals. So if it's on a good night, it can be very good. But the way soccer can be as well, you could have not a lot of action in a game.
Yeah. Yeah, and football, it's by far the number one bet sport in the US, even though it hasn't always been by far the most popular sport. I think it probably is most popular right now, but not by a ton. But when it comes to wagering, it certainly outpaces the others significantly because it's just such a great sport to bet on. And I'm not even sure I can put my finger on exactly what that is. I think the fact there's one game a week has kind of
Yeah.
a rhythm to it is nice. What the other elements are, I don't know. I mean, I guess if I think about basketball, it's not really decide. The first 3 quarters are kind of doesn't matter. Anything could happen. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah,
What
no, I
what?
think that's it. And it's like NFL, every game matters, pretty much until the end of the season. You might have some tanking. The NBA now, the tanking season starts early. So even like you'll notice the betting operators, like they'll tighten limits up near the end of the NBA season because they know like some of these teams aren't competitive now. So I think it's that kind of once a week action, shorter season games matter. Whereas when obviously NBA, MLB, it's not as important. So it's probably harder to make a big wager when the team mightn't be fully invested in the game.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly interesting to hear that the NFL is doing that well over there. Frankly, I wasn't sure how well it was doing. It's definitely kind of a long play
Yeah,
for
it's
it.
booming. I think that London team, the London franchise, probably isn't far away. But like I think 3 games in London this year. I think one in Munich, one in Ireland. I think maybe Spain or somewhere else. So like they're definitely pushing that international program. So yeah, I think a team in London would be great, and it's probably doable now as well.
Well, in the meantime, baseball is heading in the other direction. It's heading to Asia. I'm here in Los Angeles, where we've got Shohei Ohtani and a couple other Japanese players, and just lots of things going on with Asia right now. In fact, I don't know if you knew this, but they played actual regular season Major League Baseball games in Japan this year. I think last year was the first year that they did it, but kind of like the NFL is doing actual games in Japan.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, Otani is unbelievable, right? I mean, he's going to bring people back into that sport because just the things he's doing. So yeah, I'm a Mets fan, so we got I kind of just got back into it last year as well, but with them kind of on their surprise run and getting Juan Soto. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm following it. I'm watching highlights every morning now. So my wife's wondering
Did
what's
you
wrong
did
wrong with me.
Did you spend time in New York, or you're just adopting these teams because they're the closest to Dublin?
Yeah, no, my dad was there for 25 years, so I kind of did every summer for 25 years basically. So as a kid, then into kind of, college age and used to caddy in golf courses over there. So kind of had the full experience of being very close to American sports, throughout my life. But yeah, unfortunately, he burdened me with the Jets and the Mets, whereas if it had been Yankees and Giants, I would have had a little more success.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about TX odds. First of all, let's start with the name. Did you name it after our great state of Texas or what?
So that has come up lately because we're going into SBC America or in Miami. We're taking a stand. I want us to be known as TX, not TX odds, because we're now gone into live data in College Stadium. But our owner thought people are just going to think it's Texas, so we're sticking with TX odds for now. I think it originally 25 years ago, I think the company started as TipX, and I think it just slowly evolved into TX odds. It was a pure odds feed. I think the TX, the transaction kind of ties to it, and yeah, I don't think it was anything deeper than that.
So let's talk about exchange wagering because that's something that's not big yet in the US at all, where it's peer-to-peer, companies facilitating two people to make a bet with each other as opposed to betting against the house. Is that kind of where TX odds plays in the exchange wagering space?
No, so we kind of provide odds into bookmakers. Now we have a lot of people from exchange backgrounds, so I would have spent 7 or 8 years with an Irish exchange called BetDAC, which would have been owned by Entain when I was there. I think our most famous alumnus is Nigel Eccles, so it's probably the only way people over there might have heard of it. And exchange was always this kind of like it's going to be big, it's going to be big, and Betfair is big, but it's kind of just tailed off, and it's kind of plateaued a bit and never really took off. And then coming from that background, watching the US, thinking, okay, they're kind of going through some of the same things that we went through as an exchange. Liquidity problems state by state, ring fence liquidity. So it was kind of a tough sell over there. Whereas now I think with the CFTC, these prediction markets, I think with Kalshi, I think they did big numbers on March Madness, and it's kind of been a backdoor into, I think they're in all 50 states now. So it is very, very interesting watching it, and that if that was to take off, I think it would be. I don't think it'll ever take away from just pure kind of sports betting versus the house, but it's definitely a nice ad, and because for some people who do want to trade in and out of positions, it's a different form of betting, which there's definitely room for it in the marketplace.
So tell us what TX is doing today.
So TX odds is 25 years old this year, so we've been around basically as long as the online gambling industry itself. So primarily just an odds feed. We aggregate market feeds, and we deliver them low latency, consistent, accurate odds. So that's kind of what we built the whole business on. That's our core product. So that will be used by bookmakers in various ways. So building models on top of our market odds, seeing where they are versus their competitors. They might want to be more aggressive in certain markets, be best price, or even kind of anti-arbitration would be what a lot of it would be, so that they're not standing out to be kind of picked off when their prices are wrong. So that's kind of was the history of the company, and that is our bread and butter today. But in the last year, we've an office in Chicago. We've built out a scouting network, and we've gone in stadium in college football and college basketball to basically, it was an underserved market where nobody was creating the data set that the betting operators needed to be able to offer good in-play products on college football and basketball. So NFL, NBA kind of they've their own collection, and they have in-running products where you'd get the player who scored a basket live, but that wasn't available in college sports. So we had kind of some experience in TX odds with people of one, building tools, and two, working for other scouting companies, be it for media purposes or betting, and kind of just said, okay, first principles, what's the best way we can build this out? So building brand new tools with, easiest way for the scout to do it, what data points are important, and working with customers to see basically what they want to build products and what helps them keep their betting windows, their markets up longer.
So is it mostly focused on live in-game betting?
Yes. So that's where, because you have your pre-game models, but once, I guess it's kicked off, then you need to know what's happening. And if you're taking in running bets, I guess you need to know if the touchdown's being scored, because otherwise there could be someone sitting in the stadium betting against you. I guess that's the simple premise of it. But then, there is other stuff whereby, if a customer takes our data, they know we'll flag to them if it's a possible touchdown. So if it looks like the receiver's, running clear of the end zone, we'll flag that, so then they can suspend, which gives them more confidence that they can leave the betting window open, where they're not at risk of being courtside, as the expression is, or, someone having, a faster picture than a bookmaker. So it's really it's protection for bookmakers, so they can offer a better product to customers.
Gotcha. So you guys are not involved in setting the line at all, or suggesting or establishing a line?
No, so TXODDS, the odds, we would look at all the lines from all bookmakers, and they'd all be in our feed. So you could look, if you're in our feed, you can see FanDuel's lines, DraftKings lines, Caesars, MGM, everything, and we're kind of like an aggregator. And then last year as well, now we've partnered with a company called Lacerta, who their heritage is from, they're probably the most successful sports betting syndicate in the world, Star Lizard, and they went into B2B space kind of 4 or 5 years ago. So now that will be kind of more originators of price and kind of really advanced modeling. So that's kind of a newer feature for us, whereby, before it was an odds feed and it's kind of aggregated, and we do have some sophisticated products there where you can, get weighted averages, and we have protection tools for bookmakers so that they can trade that price live. Whereas the difference with the Lacerta products is they're trading those prices live. The cricket products being traded, into India, they're trading live in Asia. So it's kind of like they're battle tested prices. So for our customers, then they know they can trade them with confidence.
Hi everyone, I'm Veronica Dudo, and welcome to Buy,
Hold, Sell. If you have the Russians that are going into Ukraine, the Americans and the Germans and everyone else in Europe is going to say, hell no.
If Russia doing things, logically was their MO, I'd agree with you. Yeah, Todd, why don't you get him on a phone call right now? Hello, you.
And welcome back to Double Down, where we're talking to Alan Casey, who is the Chief Commercial Officer at TXODDS, recently now expanding into the U.S. So you guys now have an office in Chicago. Is your U.S. business now primarily about what you're calling scouting, where you guys are out at all the games and basically confirming what's going on for the live sports betting crowd?
Yeah, so that is the main focus of our US operation, whereby, we've one scout in stadium, and then we have one analyst working with each scout in the office to kind of ensure data quality. So kind of everything about TXODDS is all about, well, low latency data, but accuracy of data as well. So that's kind of the primary setup, and that's why we've kind of the big office in Chicago. And now we're looking at taking a second office already, because if you're doing, it can be over 100 NCAA basketball games going on in January. So that means we need, over 100 monitors for an analyst to sit, to be in touch with a scout in stadium. And then kind of based off the success of our first season and the office there, we are adding kind of more functions that would cover our whole entire business. So we will have tech staff, we'll have customer service staff. So we're kind of building out a full range team. So the office, it does fit into our overall company as well as just scouting.
So am I right that if you're talking about the NFL, that the NFL already has their own official statistics, or that they're providing, and people pay the NFL for that?
Yeah, exactly. So they would be distributed by BetGenius, have the contract, and the NFL, Sportradar have NBA. So they would, but they're not allowed to put their own scouts in stadium, so it can be a bit inconsistent, because the NFL they have their own scouts, NBA have their own scouts, and those scouts, the flaw is they don't really understand it's for betting. So if they miss something, or they're a couple of seconds behind, they don't have the training to know that can actually cost an operator a lot of money. So I guess that's where we're kind of differentiating, at least in the college sport, is that, like, I think we had 15,000 applicants. I think 330 hired. So like it's a 2% higher rate. it's tough to become a scout for us, and it's with the understanding that like mistakes you make will cost operators money, so accuracy is of the utmost importance.
So does that mean theoretically there is an opportunity for you guys to do NFL because the NFL is not necessarily doing it that well?
The only way we'd do it is if we would still pay like the official providers, so Genius and Radar, we'd pay them, and we'd probably do it by getting their pictures, their low latency pictures, and we'd record from those pictures if we were to do it. We're not in the business of providing, I guess, unofficial data. We're not going into stadium in NFL or NBA because that's what they have. They have official rights, whereas with college, there is no official rights. I think based on the conferences, everything else that there's unlikely to ever be. So that's kind of why we went in there. But there's good enough data in NBA and NFL, but where we might add to it is the secondary data. So in terms of like, I don't know, 3-point field goals made by a player. So someone might want to offer, I don't know, Steph Curry over 6 3-pointers in the game tomorrow night. So that's fine. You can settle that after in a box score, but for a customer, they want to know, okay, in the third quarter, he's made a 7th. I want my money back and I want to play again on something else. So that's where your kind of live data becomes important, and having, accurate stats and deep kind of level stats that can just add to the experience for the customer.
So college basketball and college football does not have an official provider right now. So it's pretty much open for any company like yours to go in and do it and sell it.
Exactly, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what other sports kind of fit into that category? I mean, I assume all the big ones, baseball and hockey, already have their own official channels.
Yeah, so I think Major League Baseball probably is the best data feed of anyone. I think that would be known as, and it's a stats-based sport, so I guess that makes sense. But that is known as like, not just in US sports, but that feed is just brilliant, and that has everything operators need on it. I think college baseball is probably very underserved. I guess not as popular as basketball and football, but that could be an avenue we go down. But yeah, I think this year was like build out a product. We had, I think, 4 or 5 operators live there in March Madness using us. So I think that was very good for year one. We moved into our office last July, so it's not even a year old yet. So to have some of the biggest operators in the US using us for March Madness was kind of nice for us to say, okay, we've done okay here.
So where would you rank in sports betting right now, both in Europe and in the US, as the percentage of total bets?
It's over 50%, I guess, in the UK in terms of in running soccer. It's everything. It's huge percentage. I think in run in America probably is a bit to catch up on. Definitely college sports, because that wasn't really there before. It's probably 10-15%, but we did hear from the operators that were using us in March that the kind of turnover year on year was way up just by kind of having that product there. So I think come college football season, we should see it grow to at least 50-50.
Wow. And how would you analyze just the US sports betting market right now, just high level, coming from the European model, and you guys having been around a lot longer? What do you see likely coming down the pike as far as any changes in the US?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think with the US, big market, but like the barriers to entry were so high there that you've only ended up with 7-8 operators. So it's kind of hard where you see back to the exchanges, companies like Sporttrade were trying to innovate and provide this different thing, and they went through all the legislation, and then these prediction markets come in and basically steal a march. They don't have to pay any of the licensing. So that it's been an interesting thing, because that's kind of where the innovation will come from, because FanDuel and DraftKings, that they have a good product, but they have the whole market, so they don't need to reinvent the wheel, nor will they. I don't think. I think they're just be happy to kind of have a good product. The pricing isn't super competitive. It's not terrible either. I think they just put out a good product, and they know they're going to have the market. So it will be interesting to see kind of where does the innovation come from when the barriers to entry are so high. Whereas in Europe, we didn't really have that. I think you might have 40 or 50 operators in the UK. So I think that's the main difference. I think is just, yeah, you would expect there to be way more going in, but I think yeah, various reasons, the regulatory and even the marketing barrier to entry, with the promotions and bonusing that FanDuel and DraftKings were able to do because of their kind of daily fantasy customer business. They had the lead, and it's going to be very hard to make up for anyone else.
Yeah. What about, I'm curious, advertising? There's starting to be some discussion about that here. I mean, there don't appear to be any limits on it whatsoever. We went from 0 to 60 very quickly here when it came to sports betting, and it went from all the leagues being opposed to it and saying, my gosh, you can't allow bets on the game, the integrity of the game, et cetera, et cetera. And the next thing you know, on everybody's uniform, there's, FanDuel or DraftKings. So,
Yeah, money talks.
yeah. So I personally wouldn't mind seeing some limits on advertising. I think it's kind of gone overboard. I love the idea of it being legal, because anytime you make something illegal, you're just sending it underground into a gray market, which is never good. That's the mafia is involved, et cetera, et cetera. So I like making it legal for sure. But then in addition to that, pushing it on everyone is so strongly that's where I think about possibly drawing a line. So are there any limits on advertising in Europe?
Yeah, so that's kind of it's an interesting balance. So in Europe, yeah, there's been, and especially in the last 5 years, there's been kind of real move, I guess, towards like responsible gambling, what you can say, what you can advertise, even promotions you can do, wording, like there's very strict rules in advertising. There's times a day you can't do it. So, and I guess that will probably come in the US, but I think the UK market in Europe, I think they overdid it a little bit. I need to say this right, because you can't, like, responsible gambling is very important. It should be fun, safe. People should be not playing beyond their limits, but I think they made it too hard for people who were playing responsibly. There's too many hoops to have to go through, and it's actually driven people to the grey market in the UK. Like and that just makes it worse, because then you've no kind of care over there. So it is interesting. I think in the US, there's a little bit, you have the 1-800 gambling on every radio ad and on the websites. So, but it's a fine balance, and it's one I think they'll get right in America, because I just think the US mentality is like, you're responsible for yourself, so you place a wager, that's on you. So I think if the gambling is done right, or sorry, the advertising is kind of done right, whereby you're literally not just ramming it down people's throats, and then you kind of, it's the responsibility then of the individual to kind of make their own decisions. So I think the US might strike a nice happy balance on it, but I guess time will tell.
What is the restriction that Europe put in place that's so restrictive that's causing people to go to gray?
Yeah, so it's kind of like there's like loss limits, and you have to show like proof of funds. So yeah, if you've lost
So
certain,
we're not talking about, I'm talking about curtailing advertising a bit, not necessarily the actual product. So you're saying they're curtailing the actual product to put caps on how much you can bet and how much you can lose, etc.
Yeah, caps on products are then like, even, you have to send like months of bank statements, where you should just be able to send, I don't know, one pay slip, and then there you go. I can afford to bet that amount of money. And then it kind of eaten into like VIP programs, which are all but gone over here, but I think still in America. And, in some cases, yeah, they are predatory, but in other cases, they're just rewarding people who are gambling responsibly, enjoying it, and probably deserve perks based on turnover or whatever else. They're good customers of a business. You should be able to look after them. So,
And why are VIP programs on the decline there?
basically, like the regulators saying, you can't encourage gambling, basically. So that by me getting tickets to go racing or to see Manchester United, that's making me want to spend more. So, yeah, there's nuance in every bit of this discussion for sure, but yeah, that's where that kind of the balance is important. So it's, yeah, hopefully it's right in America, because you're coming from it's more mature from the start anyway, and yeah, it seems to be a bit more sensible to date. But yeah, I know what you're saying on advertising. I think an NFL game, or if you watch it, and it's like, yeah, every second ad is gambling. So I think that is too much.
Yeah, yeah. I think reasonable restrictions would be good. I think mostly about the lottery here. And we started the lottery because we didn't want, the mafia was controlling it, and so the states took it over. And that's great. We legalized lottery, and now people can play the lottery. And next thing you know, though, the states are spending tons of money advertising the lottery to all their citizens, trying to get them to play the lottery. It's like that wasn't really the original intent, I don't think. Sports betting is a bit different because it's all privatized, which is really good. Okay, well, tell just to kind of wrap up, what do you want everybody to know about TX odds out there, and what you guys have coming next, and what people need to know, and how to find you guys?
Yeah, I think, look, when I I was kind of moved kind of solely into the TX products. I was working on a horse racing product for 5 years before then. And, we're going to conferences and meeting people, and they either didn't know who we were, or they had this kind of dated view of us. So we historically were kind of word of mouth. Our product spoke for itself, and and that was good enough for us. We've most of the tier ones, nearly all the tier ones in kind of the European marketplace. A lot of the American operators now as well. So that was always enough. But now we're launching these new products, the college product, and these kind of Lacerta products on cricket, US sports, and soccer. So it's just TX. We're doing a lot more now. They're all premium products, work very well, and at our core, it's just kind of accurate odds, accurate odds, low latency, and consistent, because we know that errors cost money for our customers, so we try and reduce them as much as we can.
Hey, do you have some big contracts already in the U.S. for providing that information to sports betting companies?
Yeah, so on both sides, on kind of the odds side and the college, the data scouting side, and then also in talks now on that Lacerta soccer product, which could be very interesting with the World Cup kind of 2 years away. So I think it's going to be, I think for betting, I think soccer's a mature sport now in America for sure, but I think the World Cup is really going to boost the popularity as well. I think for betting, that's going to be a really important tournament. So looking to talk to US operators about their soccer product as well.
Yeah, I would imagine soccer's got to be climbing up the board as far as total handle in the US. I don't know where it ranks. Maybe do you happen to know where it ranks? It's got to be football number one. What, basketball number two would be my guess in the US?
Baseball, hockey, soccer, I would guess.
Yeah,
racing
I would think
obviously isn't fixed odds, so we'll just leave that out. But yeah, I would imagine it's there.
Yeah, I would think soccer's got to be challenging hockey at this point in the US. Cool. All right. Well, appreciate you coming on, and good luck moving into the States. Chicago, one of my favorite cities, so that's a good place to start. Right in mid-America. Make sure you're there in the summer, not the winter. Same with Dublin.
Yes, very true. Yeah, similar cities actually, similar kind of people. Yeah, good people who may or may not like a drink.
Exactly. All right. Thank you, Alan Casey, Chief Commercial Officer for TXODDS, for joining us on Double Down with Breslo. We thank you all for watching and listening, and we'll be back soon with another episode. Take care, everyone.